rock, paper, scissors. The first thing that may come to your mind is the game, right? Wait, now what do you think? At first glance, it may be confusing, but these have shaped today's world. To be precise, human resources. Let me explain you how. This small rock was used as a currency and to manage expenses back in 5000 BC. Pretty interesting, right? This is a scene from Shawshank Redemption where Andy cuts a deal with the officer and got beer as a form of compensation for tarring the roof.
You get the forms, I'll prepare them for you. Nearly free of charge. I'd only ask 3 beers apiece for each of my co-workers.
Co-workers, get in, that's rich, ain't it?
I love this scene. This was a real form of compensation back in 2000 BC Uruk, which is modern day Iraq. And this is the only recorded paycheck of this booze ration, which is kept in the British Museum. In ancient Rome, the soldiers were paid in salt. Salt? Because it preserves food. Meaning salt had so much value and it was controlled by the ruling class. Interestingly enough, the Latin word for salt is salarium, which evolved to the word we call today as salary. Fast forward to 1700 BC, we come to Indus Valley civilization. Because of the increasing trade and administrative control, the pay scales and job classifications were introduced. Around 1600 BC, the Chinese started providing medical care to their workers. Whenever an employee got sick, the employer arranged a doctor to help them recover, which are like medical or employee benefits we have today. An interesting fact about the paper: it was invented by the same Chinese and used for business transactions and government documents. Imagine record keeping for an entire kingdom. I'm pretty sure all the record keepers' day started like this.
In the late 1750s, Thomas Newcomen and James Watt invented the first steam engine, which kick-started the Industrial Revolution. Factories rose, employment increased, leading to a whole new future and new problems. The workers started to demand for improved working conditions, which presented the companies with new set of challenges like record keeping, employee grievances, and compliance with the new laws. And the solution? Personnel departments. The first ever personnel department was created in 1901 at the National Cash Register Company in the United States. It is also referred to as the first HR department. It focused on handling worker grievances, safety issues, training supervisors on new laws, regulations, and company policies. One of the notable changes that was introduced during this time was the 8-hour workday by Tata Steel and Ford Motor Company, which was a labor practice that was unheard of back then. (1914) The First World War begins. The demand for industrial output was rising, but it was challenged with labor shortage as the workers were losing their lives to the war effort. This forced companies to increase their wages and several other provisions to retain workers. Between 1924 and 1932, Elton Mayo conducted his famous Hawthorne studies, in which he concluded that in order to motivate employees, the human factors and the non-monetary rewards were more important than the physical factors. After the Second World War ended in 1945, the labor boom gained traction. Companies were now recruiting for more skilled workers. It was around this time that they were beginning to understand the competitive advantage of treating their employees well. Progressive legislative acts were also passed, like equal pay and civil rights. In 1984, Formbrunn, Tichy, and Devanna proposed the Michigan model, or hard HRM, which laid the foundation for traditional human resource approach. Welcome to the modern era of HR. There was no HR in India until 1974. Dr. T.V. Rao and Uday Parikh, the two former professors of IIM Ahmedabad, set up the first ever human resource department at Larsen & Toubro. This is probably the first company in the world to have a fully dedicated HRD. Their contributions have shaped the Indian HR space, and that is why Dr. Rao and Parikh were considered as the fathers of Indian HRD. Human resource slowly gained more traction, focusing on aspects like employee productivity and fostering a positive work environment. But then,
right now we're sitting down 875 points.
Sensex Nifty 15% गिरे.
Minutes after it opens, the Bombay Stock Exchange plummets 12%.
the global financial crisis hit the world in 2008. It put people out of their jobs. Between 2008 and 2012, companies reduced their employee counts from 10 to 34%. Nearly a decade after the GFC, in 2020, the world would witness the COVID-19 pandemic. It was one of the darkest phases in the modern times. Companies struggled for survival, pushing them to take drastic measures such as downsizing and cost cutting, and people were leaving their jobs as they feared for their lives. The HR had to be at the center of these pandemic-induced changes, supporting their employees and the managers throughout the span of the next 2 years. As bad as COVID-19 was, it had its silver lining. During COVID-19, the technological adoption increased across all industries, and companies quickly transitioned to a remote work model, bringing in new tools for communication and collaboration. As for the Indian HR space, the transformation happened by leaps and bounds. HR is now becoming more data-driven and strategic in nature.
Heraclitus, a Greek philosopher, once said,
Change is the only constant in life.
and this has never been more true for the HRs around the globe.
And you,
So hang in there.
brace yourself for the next big change.